a Pearl Lake Ancient, but he certainly will have that for this game, and that should be just fine for him. They're going to be playing almost nearly the same cards on both sides. They're going to have Thought Seizes in, the Pearl Lake Ancient, 1 negate in the sideboard for Harry. That is somewhat light compared to the fact that Calcano has 4 Thought Seize, 2 negate in his sideboard. So Calcano, I think, is actually going to be set up a little bit. He'll be set up a little better in our post-board games. He's heavier on card draw as well. If you look on Calcano's side, he has 2 copies of Jace's Ingenuity in addition to his 4 Dig Through Times. For Harry, he doesn't have any of that. What he is running, however, is he has 4 copies of Silumgar's Scorn, whereas Calcano has 0. And the fact that may matter more than the additional card draw.
Now, Silumgar's Scorn is actually interesting because you have to do the dragon count of how many dragons does Harry have. He's got 2 Silumgar the Drifting Death. So those are actually just going to be Force Spikes. So I wouldn't be surprised, and correct me if I'm wrong, do you think Harry's probably going to just board that card out?
I think he'll keep it in. So oftentimes in these control mirrors, especially as the decks become more, I'd say, like do-nothing control decks where you're all answers and spells, your best card in the control mirror are your counter spells, are your hard counters. They're your cards like, Dissolve may be the best card on both sides. So for Harry, yes. Is it a Force Spike? Sometimes that is frustrating. However, if he can keep a dragon in his hand and have these Silumgar Scorns, to have 8 counters to your opponent's 4 is so huge that I might think Harry will stick with them.
Okay. Well, those are the options there for both players. We'll be underway here. Looks like game 1 took a little while. As you can see the clock, we're going to be around 20 minutes here in just a moment. But we are going to watch a blue-black control mirror between Harry Corvese, and Christian Calcano. So if you are just joining us, do appreciate having you. Cedric Phillips and Thias Hunt. Patrick Sullivan will be joining us next round. We, of course, have Nick Miller and new to SCG Live, Ken Crocker in the sideboard, along with the rest of the SCG Live crew. At SCG Live, hashtag SCGINVI all weekend long for your tweets. You can see Patrick there checking out Harry Corvese in this blue-black mirror, wondering what game they're in. He will find out that Harry Corvese is up 1. As we are in round number 10 of action. We've got 2 more rounds of Standard after this, 4 rounds of Legacy after that. And then we'll cut to a top 8 and figure out who's going to be doing battle tomorrow morning for $10,000, their likeness on a card, and an invite to our Players' Championship in December. Calcano going to take a mulligan.
One thing to note, one other threat in Harry's sideboard, he actually has 1 copy of Stratus Dancer.
That has to come in.
Absolutely. This is the new Megamorph card. When it's turned face up, it counters an instant or sorcery spell. Do a pretty good job of just being a threat and being a counterspell.
Again, we've given kind of a constructed pre-release vibe to this tournament, which I think we certainly have going on here. This looks like Calcano's going to take another mulligan very quickly, so he's down to 5. That's why you maybe see just 1 Stratus Dancer. Maybe that card is better than Harry thought it would be, but it's worth at least trying 1. See where it stands.
Well, yeah, and it would be good for these kind of control mirrors. Just, you don't want to overload on a card like that because it's not very efficient as far as mana is concerned. But the fact that there's so little going on in this mirror match, just actually having a creature on the board, even if it's just a 3/2 flyer, is pretty significant.
Calcano down to 5. It's not impossible to win from this situation, but it's certainly gotten hard now. Harry going to start with a Dismal Backwater. His game number 2 is underway. He's up to 21. Calcano will take a draw. He'll play a Temple. That card stays on top very quickly, so we head back Corvese's way. Corvese has an island. He'll just kick it back. Calcano puts his Dismal Backwater off the top of his deck into play. He's up to 21 as well. Corvese with a Swamp. We head back Calcano's way. Calcano with a Temple, so he's keeping up on lands, even though he had some mulligan issues. Corvese with a Delta. Calcano with an Anticipate.
Yeah, Calcano did mull to 5, but because he's on the draw, he's really only down 1 card here. That certainly can be made up as long as he can make his land drops.
There's an island. Looks like Harry has at least 1 land to play. He'll play a Temple. Take a look at the top card. That card will stay on top. And now here's a Thoughtseize. So Harry wants to know exactly what's going on. Christian would like to protect his hand with a Negate. And that'll work just fine. So we'll head back Calcano's way.
Negating Thoughtseize, pretty standard play in these control mirrors.
Concealing that information, rather important.
Yeah, what is actually interesting, I think the fight will be over, is Calcano's copies of Thoughtseize. Except for if Harry's using cards like Silumgar's Scorn, he needs to he needs to keep a copy of a dragon in his hand. So
Yeah.
he'll need to fight over Calcano's Thoughtseizes.
Rather competitive game so far. Here's a Thoughtseize from Calcano.
And let's see if Harry can fight over this one.
He'll attempt to dissolve.
I mean, you pretty much just spend counters, or you're willing to spend counter spells on Thoughtseizes.
Calcano wants to dissolve back. Harry will show a hand. Anticipate. Pearl Lake Ancient. Silumgar's Scorn.
So he has kept them in, doesn't have the dragon yet, so you're right, this is not a particularly strong card just yet. But once he gets a dragon, the fact that he has so many more hard counters will be strong. This does give Christian a chance to get rid of that Pearl Lake, though. That's Harry's only copy.
Yeah, that's long gone now. That's pretty important, too. Calcano fighting admirably here. Thought it might be easy for Harry, given that he mulliganed a 5 in a control mirror. That is not the case, as there's another Delta and just a passing of the turn.
Now, you'd be tempted to say here that this is really bad for Harry in that he lost his Pearl Lake Ancient, in the sense of, if you look back to like Elixir of Immortality mirror matches, that losing your Elixir is just beyond bad. I'm not positive that these blue-black control mirrors actually play out that way post-board. Harry didn't have Pearl Lake game 1. Both players have a copy of Ugin to win with. Harry has 2 copies of Silumgar, and both have both have a Haven of the Spirit Dragon as well.
In Harry's upkeep is when Calcano's casting his Dig Through Time. Harry is responding by casting an Anticipate. That resolved. Now he's sacrificing 3 Pluto Deltas. He'll lose 3 life, but more importantly, he'll get 3 lands out of his deck, so 2 islands and a swamp.
Calcano has left up the 1 mana for Silumgar's Scorn. It's not the end of the world if Dig Through Time resolves. What you want to think about each player is what is their current counter spelling ability at. So Harry right now, because his Silumgar's Scorn isn't active, he doesn't have a counter in his hand. So you need to think of how many counters are in their hand and how many counters can they actually pay for right now.
Now he's going to dig.
And this should be a win here for Harry if this dig resolves. All he has to find in these 7 cards is a dissolve or a copy of a dragon for his Silumgar Scorn. It's really unlikely he doesn't. He's almost certain to find one of the 2.
He's taking 2 cards pretty quickly here from the 7 he gets to look at. The rest are going to the bottom. And, wow, dig is going to resolve. Fair enough. Now remember, this is all in Harry's upkeep. So maybe he found a card like Thoughtseize. We'll see. Calcano looking at a bunch of cards here from his Dig Through Time resolving. Prognostic Sphinx is one of them. Looks like he selected the Sphinx. Those cards will go to the bottom.
Prognostic Sphinx, a last-second addition to Calcano's deck. He does have some additional threats in his sideboard. Has 1 copy of Dragonlord Silumgar, 1 copy of Prognostic Sphinx, 1 copy of Tassiger the Golden Fang.
There's a Thoughtseize from Calcano. So now we get to find out what Harry kept. Now he's going to cast Dissolve. That will resolve. That means Harry gets the Scry. Leaves the card on top still. Here's the Sphinx. Pass the turn back.
All right, so now there's some pressure on Harry here. If he's kept in any perilous vaults, he could deal with this. He has actually kept in Crux of Fate.
Okay.
I'll take care of the Sphinx.
Calcano really wants to untap. He must have something nice going on in that hand. And here, a morph.
Right, so at this point, if you're Calcano, you're thinking, okay, what morphs exist? We know it's his one of Stratus Dancer.
There's Thoughtseize. That'll take care of Dig Through Time. Leaving Harry with just that Silumgar Scorn.
Remember, Stratus Dancer for 2 mana can turn up and counter an instant or sorcery spell.
Hiya with that morph.
It's a 2/2 and face down. When it comes face up, it'll be a 3/2 flyer.
I actually do wonder if Calcano knows what the morph is. There's land number 7. Calcano going to very quickly sacrifice that. We know what 7 lands means in the control mirror. I think it could be an ambush with a Pearl Lake Ancient.
It could, and
Yep.
it will be the Pearl Lake.
Can't counter that.
No way to get rid of it right away. We'll see. Harry didn't have one when the Thoughtseize came out. We'll see if he drew one.
Yeah, Hero's Downfall would be ideal right now. Might just have to flip the stress so it doesn't die. Yep.
Yeah, he's going to flip it just so it becomes a flyer.
And you saw Calcano already had the die in hand, so he knew what it was. Now the race is sort of on. There's a land.
The interesting things I think where control mirrors have moved right now in standard is that you have to remember about these decks is that they aren't as big on utilizing all their mana. Once they hit 7 or 8 lands, you'll see a lot of both these players go to the end of their turn with just untapped lands that they are unable to use.
Yep. Calcano very quickly takes the Delta off the top of his deck, sacrifices it, gets an island. He's down to 7.
Yeah, he has to make sure that he still wins this race.
Yeah. Wow, this feels like an Ugin. Yeah.
Well, not about winning races. Ugin's going to be pretty good at that.
Well, Negate will take care of it. Don't forget that Pearl Lake Ancient prowess from the Ugin.
Well, I think the Ugin was post-combat.
No, pre-combat.
Pre-combat. Okay. Well, oh, no, you're absolutely right. Okay,
Once
prowess
played,
is up.
Yeah, once played pre-combat anyway because of prowess.
Harry down to 5. Not winning the race as it stands.
Slumgar scoring still in hand here for Corvese. And now Stratus Dancer has to hang back on D. Here comes the Leviathan. There's a block. Maybe a waving of the white flag here. Looks to be. Christian Calcano going to win game number 2 here against Harry Corvese. Blue-black control mirror will head to a third and final one. Calcano going right back to the drawing board. Must be looking for something. Again, his sideboard coming into game number 2 was 4 Thoughtseizes, 3 Drown in Sorrows, 2 Self-Inflicted Wound, 2 Negate, 1 Disdainful Stroke, a Prognostic Sphinx, a Dragonlord Slumgar, and a Tasker of the Golden Fang. So he clearly wants something because he went straight to the box.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what he goes back in. If you look at what happens in that game, Calcano on a multi-5 still able to get it. He was able to burn through a lot of Harry's early counter spells with Thoughtseize. Harry on the plan to play Slumgar Scorn. That did end up hurting him there. He had one in his hand the whole game, but never found a dragon to make it uncounterable. Maybe Harry switches up on that or sticks with it. We'll see.
Yeah, Slumgar Scorn, it's just really interesting, right? Because I understand your point of view where if he does have a dragon, it's counter spell.
It's huge upside, and we saw the downside there, and the downside is very real.
Yes.
Force Spike is not good in this matchup.
Yeah.
That said, I mean, you can talk about a lot of control mirrors and how many counter spells are in each deck post board, and if these can turn into counter spells, Harry is very far ahead in that department.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And we saw Calcano, the way he kind of played the game, like the Ugin turn, for example. He just immediately kept the land on top, play the land, search with Delta, play Ugin, like easily play around Force Spike, especially when you know your opponent has it. And I don't think that Harry really went back to the drawing board. I think he almost is forced to keep that sort of card in, but the upside is very real. If he's able to draw one of his dragons, he actually just has Counterspell in his hand. So we'll see if that ever surfaces here as both players finish shuffling up very, very quickly. So game number 3 going to be underway here as they've got about 10 minutes, and this match can take a little while. Remember, Calcano did mulligan to 5 that game and won it pretty easily. Corvese selected to be on the draw here for game number 3. Wants that extra card in the control mirror.
Calcano currently 5-0 in standard with blue-black control.
Very nice. There's an island. Pass the turn back.
Yeah, and I don't mind being on the draw. There's very little sense of tempo in this matchup.
Especially when you don't have to worry about a card like Ashiok, which neither player has here. Because Ashiok can be a real punishment.
Yep, Ashiok on turn 3 can be good. Certainly forces the opponent to have something like Negate because you won't have your Dissolve up yet.
Also, a card like Grind Clock can really punish if you choose to go on the draw.
If you want to talk about a card that's very good against blue-black control, Grind Clock is excellent against it. Provided you're a deck that can reasonably play Grind Clock.
Hero's Downfall is going to take care of Stratus Dancer. Calcano shields are down right now. but there's nothing that Harry can really do to take advantage, so he just plays an island and pass the turn back. Calcano with the Radiant Fountain, he's up to 21.
Curious how many heroes downfalls Calcano actually kept in. The stressed answers from Harry maybe forcing Calcano to keep some number in, but there's very few targets for the downfalls.
Might be a little bit of a hedge against Ashiok, like if he thinks that Harry has them somewhere in his 75, because Ashiok can just be such a disaster to play against. There's Dismal Backwater. Haven of the Spirit Dragon there for Calcano.
Haven actually is a great addition for these decks. One thing when yours is Threat Light, as blue-black is that you worry about someone thought seizing your win con, somehow getting rid of your Ugin, but Haven of the Spirit Dragon just gets around that. You can't thought seize it, it always gets the Ugin back.
Perilous Vault is Harry's play. Calcano going to play and Anticipate. Looks like Corvese has missed his land drop as well, even though he selected to be on the draw. See, Calcano would maybe like to try to fight over Perilous Vault. Looks like he will. He's going to negate that. Now we go back Christian's way. He'll take a draw step. Very quickly going to sacrifice Polluted Delta.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Christian has opened the window for something like Prognostic Sphinx here. That would really be telling as to why he wants to negate Perilous Vault.
Yeah, Sphinx plus Counterspell potentially. Here's Thoughtseize.
Great setup by Calcano here. Harry was the first person to flinch as he tapped out for Perilous Vault, and Calcano is really punishing him for it.
A lot of interesting cards over here on Harry's side of the table.
Yeah, that's Foul Tongue Invocation. It's the 3-mana card. It causes your opponent to sacrifice a creature. Harry seems to have, it certainly seems to matter to him that Calcano played Prognostic Sphinx last game.
Crux of Fate, Dig Through Time, Dissolve, Pearl Lake Ancient, and Slumgar's Command as well in hand. A bevy of options for Calcano to select from, given that Corvese has missed a land drop.
Yeah, some real heavy hitters on Harry's side.
But much like in game number 2, Calcano selects Pearl Lake Ancient. Doesn't have to worry about that. Calcano tapping some mana on his main phase. He'll play a Dig Through Time while the shields are down.
Really taking advantage of the fact that Harry's down to that 1 mana.
7 cards for Calcano to take a look at. Of course, he'll get to take 2 with him. Doesn't have to reveal them, though. Looked like he almost was going to.
Yeah, and for Calcano, it's just he needs to compound his advantage. Harry has a lot of heavy-hitting cards. He has things like Dissolve and Silumgar's Command, Dig Through Time. Now, Calcano doesn't want the dig to resolve, but what he does have going for him is that Harry's cards are all expensive. He can only play 1 per turn. So if Calcano can use his Dig Through Times to find cards like more Dig Through Times and maybe some negates, or even just dissolves of his own, he's going to be very well positioned.
Dismal Backwater there for Harry. That clearly came off the top of the deck, given that Calcano got to see his hand. So Corvese will gain a little bit of life, but that's a 6th land for him. Looks like another Thoughtseize here. Yep.
Tough situation for Harry. He probably has to dissolve the Thoughtseize.
And this is a rough spot. Thoughtseize is so awesome in this mirror match. Oh, Dig Through Time here.
Force a counter out of Calcano's hand if Calcano has one.
Which he does.
And he does.
He'll dissolve that. Calcano keeps with the Scry very quickly. So Thoughtseize will resolve. We know the hand. Foul Tongue Invocation, Slumgar's Command, Dissolve, and Crux of Fate.
It's likely he just takes carries. That's in it takes Foul Tongue Invocation. That was unexpected on my side.
That implies something. That's what that does.
Yeah, Calcano's, well, it's interesting because there's still Crux of Fate in Harry's hand, so we're not sure what threat he's setting up for just yet.
Oh, there you go.
It's going to be Pearl Lake Ancient.
Yep. Yeah, all Harry can do is say, yep, that resolves because I can't counter it. I don't have an answer to it, really. And it comes.
Yeah, Dissolve, Silumgar's Command, Crux of Fate, those aren't... None of them will actually help him with the Pearl Lake Ancient, as second time in a row we've seen Calcano Thoughtseize away Harry's Pearl Lake and then beat him with one of his own.
And this is, the perfect threat for the control mirror.
It's not efficient. It is slow, but it is very inevitable.
Yeah. It's basically unkillable. It's uncounterable. There's a perilous vault. It's just very, very, very hard to answer.
Dissolve still up on Harry's side. Yeah, there aren't very good of ways to get through this.
I think Calcano can actually set up some sort of prowess chain to deal 10.
Maybe if you're Harry, you have to consider it. There's no stopping it though. If Calcano has 3 cards to do.
Slumgar, Scorn, and Dissolve are the new cards.
A lot of great hard counters in Harry's hand, but yeah, that's not going to serve him against Pearl Lake Ancient. And the fact that Harry is on 2 Thoughtseize to Calcano's 4 really has, I think Harry's felt it this game.
Yeah, for sure. There's another Thoughtseize. It's not Pearl Lake Ancient, it's an 8-power creature.
Calcano, can Calcano do 2 more? This is going to be dig through time. I bet he can.
It's up to 9. He's looking for a way.
All right, just needs any instant or sorcery.
I think he found an Anticipate.
That would do it if he found one. It might have been, I think it was a Disdainful Stroke. But maybe there's an Anticipate here too. Can Calcano play a 4th spell? Not how, I bet Harry, assuming he had another turn to work with, but he does not. Perilous Vault for Calcano. That's spell 4, and 10 damage from Pearl Lake Ancient will give the match to Christian Calcano.
Christian Calcano going to win this match here over Harry Corvese. The blue-black control mirror goes to the player from New York. He is 9-1 right now. We don't see him a ton on the Open Series circuit.